What is up, Gig Nation? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at UberEats and how they tip their drivers. I'm going to show you guys what I've been making with UberEats as far as tips go on the platform. Now, a lot of drivers are kind of coming out saying that this has been one of the best platforms for them as far as tipping goes lately, and that's because Uber Eats has been making some modifications. They've been updating the way that tips are handled on the Uber Eats app. So I'm going to dive into all of that, show you guys exactly what it looks like from the customer's perspective and what it looks like from my perspective as a delivery driver, how often I'm getting tipped, what it looks like before a delivery, after delivery. Now, if you don't believe me about this buzz, take a look at this survey from the rideshare guy. He's another huge blogger in the rideshare industry and also the gig economy industry. And not only does he have his blog, he has a YouTube channel where he goes into a ton of different stuff. So make sure to check him out. But according to this survey, he looked at about 100 gig economy drivers, which isn't a huge sample size, but it's enough to give us an idea. And close to like 35% of people said that Uber Eats was the best platform for tips. Now that's kind of a surprise. I thought that Grubhub would be higher, but with that small of a sample size, you really don't know. In my personal experience, Grubhub's been kind of the best, but as of lately, it's been harder to schedule, especially post-acquisition. Some things have been changing on the platform, and things move quickly in the gig economy, so things can easily change. It sounds like Uber Eats is kind of in favor now, and we need to examine this further. So what I want to show you guys is my earnings over a couple of different times that I was delivering with Uber Eats over a 5-hour period, a 3-hour period. Show you guys exactly what I've been making. So if we look at these earnings, you can see that my average is close to $15 an hour. I have not been delivering with Uber Eats that much, and I kind of just started more recently. So I think this will kind of increase as I get the hang of it and I get more confident on that platform. But that's kind of like been my average. Over a 5-hour period, I made about $75. And then over a 3-hour period, I made about $50, which is a little bit higher than that 15 an hour, closer to $16.50 per hour here in Seattle. So let's first look at it from a customer's perspective, how tipping looks like in the app if you're placing a delivery. So if you go into the app and you're ordering food, there's a screen that pops up when you're about to place that order, and essentially your tip is already figured out. You have a couple different percentage-based amounts over here that you can choose from, 15%, 20%, 25%, and they really get quite high. Now, in order to completely remove the tip, you have to hit the edit button and you have to make a conscious decision not to tip your driver. So this is really different than things have worked in the past when a lot of baseline suggestions for tips were 0. Now platforms are kind of changing around, realizing that in order to keep delivery drivers on their platform, they have to encourage customers to tip. And I'm really hoping that this becomes the new normal. So now let's take a look at what an order looks like. I'm going to show you guys a screenshot of an order that popped up in my app not too long ago. It's from a restaurant just up the street from me, and it's about a 3.5-mile delivery. I was offered $8.50 for this order. Now that includes $2.50 in premium pay. That's something that's unique to the Seattle area. There might actually be a couple of other cities doing this. I would expect maybe San Francisco does it, but essentially politicians in Seattle have decided that gig economy workers, frontline workers need to get paid that extra $2.50 because they're putting themselves on the front line during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm going to have to say, I think this is probably a positive for the most part, although I haven't seen any data to suggest whether or not this has affected demand. For a lot of customers out there, there's a threshold of what they're willing to pay for a delivery. And so these added on fees, at some point might discourage demand, but I haven't seen any information on that and if it's actually negatively impacted demand. So all I know right now is that it's a nice boost to driver earnings. Now, other than that premium pay, which I know is $2.50, there's also an estimated tip somewhere bundled in that $8.50. But Uber Eats isn't telling me what that estimated tip is. They're just giving me that order total. So after this delivery, after I go ahead and pick up the food, drop it off at the customer's house, they then have about an hour to make adjustments. They can make changes to that tip. If they want, they could take it away. If I did something, terribly wrong, if I took too long, the food was cold, I messed something up or forgot something, they could remove that tip, which is a good thing. I mean, customers should not have to tip if the driver messes something up. And honestly, it's not that common, for tips to be taken away. If something weird happens as a driver, just text that customer, let them know what's happening so that you can kind of avoid that tip adjustment if possible. So here's kind of my overall opinion of how tips have been, at least in my personal experience. That estimate with the tip included, usually that's, pretty accurate. A lot of times the ultimate payout ends up being a decent amount higher than what that earnings estimate is with, the tip estimate included. So that's kind of something to think about, to look forward to when you're delivering. You have a nice idea of what that total payout could be, and sometimes it ends up being quite a bit bigger. So let's look at some past orders that I've done. Now, as we go through these, a lot of them are going to be like $2, $3 tips added on, but there's definitely some good tips in here as well. I have one order that paid out. It was a batched order. There were 2 different orders in here. It paid out a total of 28. The estimate was like $10 or $13 below that, and I ended up getting just a really good tip after the fact. The customer was happy. It was definitely a long delivery, so that pay contribution from Uber and Uber Eats was pretty good, but the tip ended up making this just a huge order, close to a $30 order coming through. So here's what I would say. Here's kind of like my sum and substance of this whole tip thing. Uber Eats has definitely made some adjustments. Now, some of the people on the negative side of things might be saying that, yeah, tips have increased, but base pay has decreased. I don't really have too much data on that. What I do know is that a large percentage of payout is going to be tips. So overall, this is good for earnings. This is a big boost. And I think that there is definitely a reason to look at Uber Eats, to look at delivering with Uber Eats. If it's something that you've overlooked in the past, maybe you're a big DoorDash person, big DoorDash delivery driver, take a look at Uber Eats, add it to your arsenal. It might be a good thing to switch it up. You might find that Uber Eats has different times of the day when it's kind of hot in your city. So you want to go ahead and jump on that and make sure you have the app. For me, it took like a day and a half to get started with them. So, there's really not a whole lot of time that you're going to waste here. It's not going to be a huge effort. It's definitely worth doing. You can check out my promo code. I'll leave a link down below to help sign you up and get you started. There may be some sort of bonus associated with that, but I don't know because that always changes. But take a look at that if you're thinking about signing up. Now, as I mentioned, things are always changing in the gig economy. Apps are changing their tipping structure. Certain apps get acquired. That can change things for good, for better, for worse. And as we've seen lately, Uber Eats tipping has really dramatically increased. So it's become a decent option for delivery drivers. And things are going to continue to change. Make sure to subscribe to this channel to keep up with those changes, because I'm looking at all the different apps out there. I don't focus on any one app. I try and get a good comparison between what's available for delivery drivers so that you can find the best option and maximize your earnings out there. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video so that other delivery drivers can kind of figure out if Uber Eats works for them.